I was just watching some videos on the weekend that might help to explain a few things, like the fact that our armed forces can't get enough people now ready to fight and die for their country. They're undermanned by 7%. Did you know that? And here's the clue. I think, well, you know, the leftists for years painted Australia as a racist and shameful land. We even had a Prime Minister say so in 1992, inventing or exaggerating our faults to monstrous proportions.
It was we who did the dispossessing. We took the traditional lands and smashed the traditional way of life. We brought the diseases and the alcohol. We committed the murders. We took the children from their mothers.
Keating is a murderer. We is there's no we that includes me if you're talking about murderers. But it's no surprise that this poison now saturates our universities, it's trickled down, where it's so fashionable to hate Australia that the Melbourne University Student Union debated this motion to ban our flag. It says Australia is a racist country. The Australian flag is a powerful symbol of Australian nationalism. It represents the nation which continues to impoverish and brutalise Indigenous people and to sentence refugees to torture in detention centres. Those who love this despicable status quo are most drawn to this despicable symbol, the flag. Platform? That University of Melbourne Student Union commits to no longer raise or display the racist Australian flag. Now, we've had to blur the vision and we can't tell you the names of the student leaders speaking here about this resolution because of a ridiculous law in Victoria, the Surveillance Devices Act. But just have a listen.
Australia is a racist country.
Everyone who's decently progressive has a little shred of brain in them would see that the Australian state was founded on genocide and bloodshed. It was founded on the process of colonisation and the brute force of colonists that were trying to build up a capitalist project. More than 500 Indigenous people have been murdered at the hands of the cops, the courts and the ruling class institutions in this country since the Royal Commission into Black Deaths in Custody.
That murder claim is total fantasy, absolutely absurd, and there was much more. I listened to half an hour of this stuff. Of course, Israel was evil too, but about the Hamas terrorists who started the war by slaughtering and raping and kidnapping Jews, forget it. Joining me is Patrick Irwin. He's the president of the Melbourne University Liberal Club. He was in that meeting. Patrick, I mean, boy, you seem to be surrounded by haters in love with hate.
Well, it's pretty difficult sometimes. And Andrew, I think, as you say, haters going to hate. And most students at university, they just shake it off. They don't do anything. They go about their day and they prefer not to be bothered by this sort of stuff.
There were so many of them.
Yeah, and it's shocking. And what's worse is that in a meeting of over 40 students, student representatives, many of whom are paid for, are elected by students, almost none of them turned on their camera, unmuted their microphone and spoke up against this disgraceful motion. Almost none of them.
I think I heard two.
There was two. There was myself and one other, my very good friend, Stefan, who's also an executive of the Melbourne University Liberal Club.
See, that's how it works, isn't it? They give this hate ban, the flag is racist, and people are intimidated or they don't want the grief, or it's the aggression that they can't deal with, and so they stay silent.
And I think it teaches us a really important lesson, which is that ideological bullies take over institutions when good men do nothing, as I think someone said.
Edmund Burke.
That's right.
That's absolutely true. Now, like I say, you're on the student council. Only two, you and one other, spoke against it. What happened in the end, though?
So what happened in the end was that because myself and Stefan both spoke against this motion and outlined the fact that hundreds of thousands of people come to this country every year, they don't come here to be treated as second-class citizens. They don't come here to be treated by a racist colonial autocracy. What they do come here for is a better life. And so what happened was that because we made those points and because we actually spoke up and said something and took time out of our day to do it, the centre-left students who hold the majority of votes on council... Centre-left
being sort of Labor?
Labor left, Labor right, a mix of those sort of alignments. Many of them are members of the Labor Party. I don't know if all of them are, but many of them are. And they watered down the motion.
But they didn't speak against it.
They didn't speak against it, and none of them spoke against the motion at all. They never said, well, you know what, we have a majority on this council, and with the Liberal votes, we actually have a very comfortable majority on this council. We're not going to go this far. We're not going to be banning our national symbol. I mean, under this ban, you could display the flag of North Korea, but not that of Australia.
Or China.
Or China, or Russia, or Rhodesia, or any other regime with appalling human rights violations and records. But they watered down the motion. And
what?
Well, what it eventually said was that we're going to ban what we call symbols of nationalism. So those are things which basically they said are co-opted by the far right. The motion still did mention the flag in its preamble.
It started off saying Australia's a racist country. It did go through. Australia's a racist country. You didn't have the votes for that. But it went on to say, well, symbols of nationalism that can be co-opted by the far right, we can't fly those. But your point is, the flag is a symbol of nationalism.
Well, if a national flag isn't a symbol of nationalism, I really don't know what is.
So both sides can interpret it the way they want.
Well, I actually asked the question to clarify afterwards. I asked the president of the student union, who's supposed to be in charge of this sort of thing, and I said, who's going to decide this? Is this going to include the Australian flag? And she wouldn't say. I asked again today. Also, no response. So what this is obfuscation. And what troubled me the most, to be honest with you, Andrew, is you'll always have ideological extremists, you'll always have crazies in your institution, but ultimately the most of political discourse and most of the votes on Students' Council are actually taken up by those who are in the sensible centre of politics. Now, we have disagreements between right and left, and that's fine, and on many issues I actually consider myself to be moderate. On some...
They still passed the resolution saying Australia's a racist country and blah, blah. Honestly, Patrick, I don't know how you keep your humour in a meeting like that. So much hate. Patrick Irwin, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for fighting too. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.